Bonjour à tous, je suis Christopher Cordova, directeur de AI for Climate. C'est un honneur de vous rejoindre ici aujourd'hui. Je vais faire la présentation de AI for Climate en anglais. I am Christopher Cordova, and I will address today a rather big question, which is how can artificial intelligence help us stand up to climate change and biodiversity loss? It is my joy to be with you today. I am joining you from Paris, a Paris that I have never seen before, really. It's nearly empty, and at the same time, it is a Paris that remembers today the end of a terrible war. Also, I want to be very open, as my thoughts today are right now with my home state in Mexico, Tabasco, which is at the moment underwater, hit by a most violent flooding that has reached up to 3 meters in some rural and urban areas of the state. And that makes me remember that when I was a child, during one of those severe hurricane floodings in my home state, I had to leave once my grandparents without being certain of seeing them again and when. Soon after that, when I was 8, I decided to learn more about the environment, and little did I know that climate change and nature protection were going to become a lifelong passion. After 23 years of visiting communities affected by climate change, extreme poverty, and biodiversity loss, there is an urgency that grows on me as a witness of reality, which makes me more committed than ever to finding ways, new collaborative ways, to use every tool in humanity's toolbox to tackle these challenges and fast forward existing efforts at the same time, exponentially. And it is exactly this what brings me here with you to share the initiative I co-founded, AI for Climate, an effort to maximize the potential of artificial intelligence as a tool to accelerate, amplify, and simplify solutions for nature protection and conservation. Imagine a world where we can effectively protect and restore ecosystems because we have the most sophisticated tools to analyze data and inform authorities in real time about risks and opportunities for the natural reserves. Imagine a world where the power of artificial intelligence plus satellite imagery is accessible for many organizations to track endangered wild species both in land and sea to support a more effective protection. It is exactly these kind of possibilities which we are working to materialize in AI for Climate, with the help of the best technologies humankind has developed, and of course, with multi-sector collaborations across borders. We are seeing already the first steps of the application of this powerful and transformative technology. Its use is already shaping our behavior online and offline. AI technologies are really becoming more impactful as they learn from the vast amount of available data, and they will define us as a species in just a few years. We develop AI, then it transforms us, just in the way that we make a building, and then it shapes our daily life. Models are learning to listen. They're learning to speak. And perhaps more importantly, they are learning to learn. The possibilities and the new markets these technologies bringing are profound. And we are faced now with one question: how can we prioritize AI's development and use to tackle humanity's most pressing challenge? One that comes down to our survival as a species. This is exactly the question that AI for Climate and its partners is willing to answer and, of course, act upon. This initiative started at a dinner just before COVID hit us, when 3 people came together to discuss AI's possibilities and what we should be training AI models on next. I was with Constanza, the CEO of C-Minds, a women-led action tank working at the intersection of new technologies, society, and environment, that has been leading the AI field forward, and particularly the AI ethics field forward in Latin America. And with Frédéric, a Knight of the Légion d'honneur, the Ordre National du Mérite, and the Order of the Aztec Eagle, a man that has done much for the France-Mexico cooperation in recent years. And me, a writer and consultant on the green economy, and someone that has created his own natural reserve to protect thousands of 300-year-old, 9-meter-tall cactuses in northern Mexico. That day, the initiative AI for Climate was born. AI for Climate is a global initiative that aims to help the human family step up to climate change and biodiversity loss by harnessing the power of artificial intelligence. And for that, we are creating a network of living labs to protect and restore natural reserves. Our first aim is to work in 10 countries, helping leaders, communities have access to AI, the most powerful tools, and helping them amplify and accelerate their efforts towards nature, conservation, and restoration. Apart from the network of living labs powered by AI for conservation, we have other 3 components for this. And they are really making AI for Climate a very innovative and visionary project. One is sharing best practices via yearly specialized global forums and technology transfer mechanisms, while creating a global brain hive of experts from the fields of AI, nature conservation, and climate change. In that same component, we will be helping directly the owners of private natural reserves and the governments and institutions and foundations administering and protecting public natural reserves. The second is creating a world data pool to have more robust data to train AI algorithms and fast forward all the conservation and restoration efforts in every country. And also, let's be honest, we need to address the fact that AI development and use has and will continue to have a significant carbon footprint that needs to be offset. We are working on a mechanism to help balance this out. It is my joy to share with you that the first steps have been taken already. Regarding the component 1, the AI-powered living labs, we are already collaborating with industry, governments, and academia leaders, as well as with local communities to amplify conservation efforts. We have partnered as well with leading really conservation foundations around the world. And for example, in Yucatan, Mexico, the land of the Mayas, we already count with a second natural reserve for the pilot tests of AI for Climate, which is a beautiful mangrove in a reserve called Tzilam, a beautiful mangrove where birds of all colors lived and where actually there is an underground river that makes a sweet water fountain in the sea. Moreover, we are building a pipeline of inspiring solutions. We have learned now how we can listen to a jungle or a forest and use AI algorithms to identify there is a chainsaw cutting down trees. How do marine drones can help us understand the complex relation between oceans and weather patterns? How AI-powered data analysis of satellite images can help us map the collision course between ecosystems and rapid urban growth. This is just the beginning. The possibilities are really endless. And we want to fast forward the testing, the iteration of all these monitoring technologies so we can contribute to the protection of 1,000 natural reserves, public and private, in the next years. To share knowledge, which is component number 2, we're already collaborating with national and local governments, and the first AI for Climate Global Forum will be in Yucatan in less than 2 weeks, a virtual and on-site event where we will have experts from all over the world and extraordinary, inspiring solutions as well. We're exploring already the opportunity of hosting next year's AI for Climate Global Forum in the Kingdom of Morocco. And here comes the jewel of the crown. For component 3, to create a world data pool, we are collaborating with the spearhead AI groups to help accelerate the availability of robust data and develop at the same time the most effective open AI-based models. Among many others, we are now working with the founders of the spatial web, the new 3D internet that will one day allow the human family have a 3D and 4D representation of the world, all its ecosystems, and all its urban areas in real time. AI for Climate has, in less than 10 months, gathered the support of over 20 institutions, companies, and foundations, of a world-class advisory board, and the participation of many people that have dedicated their lives to the protection of nature. We are convinced that this will be an engine to fast-forward solutions with the help of humanity's most powerful creation, artificial intelligence. Also, Constanza and I have been invited to join an exciting process at the United Nations, working towards the establishment of a truly inclusive, multi-stakeholder global advisory body on global AI cooperation. This process was made possible through the support of attendees like Melinda Gates, who served as the co-chair of the high-level panel initiating this work, and of course the Secretary General of the United Nations, who called for the establishment of this important body in his roadmap for digital cooperation. Now, as key constituents of this United Nations-led process, Constanza and I are looking forward to bringing this bold vision to life across the globe. AI for Climate was shaped during this pandemic, and it will help create rights-based, data-powered value chains that are designed with the communities in and around natural reserves. This will contribute to a greener recovery and a fairer post-COVID recovery as well. The guardian communities that protect biodiversity should be at the center of conservation and restoration strategies, not marginalized for their truly silent heroes. And before coming to Paris, I met with the traditional leaders of indigenous communities in Mexico. The grandpas and the grandmas, the shamans and the healers. And it was quite extraordinary. They told me, Christopher, please tell the leaders of the human tribe this. And I will tell you the words they shared with me. They said, tell them, we are one. Beyond the illusion of walls and borders, beyond the illusion of they and us, beyond the illusion of self and foreign, lies the truth of a single family in a single home. We have long forgotten to listen. We have long forgotten who we are. We are one. And together we will repair this burning home. And together we will be stronger after the pandemics and more human and more focused on what really matters. This is the day we gather our strength and step up to the combined challenge of climate change and biodiversity loss. Paris must be again the source of hope and courage. Please help us make AI for Climate a shared success. Monsieur le Président de la République française, Vos Excellences, les chefs d'État de chaque pays qui nous accompagnent, Mesdames et Messieurs, Paris, aujourd'hui, c'est beaucoup plus que la ville qu'on connaît. C'est la famille humaine assemblée autour de cette table créée par le Paris Peace Forum, par le Forum de Paris sur la paix. Paris peut inspirer le monde, encore une fois. Paris peut nous montrer ce que le courage veut dire. C'est le moment d'utiliser l'intelligence artificielle pour combattre les changements climatiques et la perte de biodiversité. Aujourd'hui. C'est aujourd'hui. Merci à tous. And I would be glad to see your questions starting from this moment. Excellent. There is an excellent question here. Is there any risk that these monitoring initiatives come into conflict with privacy and human rights concerns? What measures are being taken to mitigate these risks? This is an extraordinarily good question. Actually, we have been working with the communities and with the foundations that already have very, very strong ties with those communities, and at the same time with the authorities at the natural reserves. This ensures that we really include all relevant stakeholders, but the communities are at the center of our approach. So this way we can mitigate these risks. Of course, the biases that can come up in such a process where so much data is involved. And that way, if we keep this vision of including all major stakeholders in every place where we develop this initiative, then we can be certain that we are in the right path. So we will make special attention to this area because this really has to be aligned with the most advanced standards related to AI, ethics, and the ethical use of all new technologies, all exponential technologies, and of course, taking into account human rights, and particularly at the same time, the urgent need for a green post-COVID recovery, and actually one that comes from, and that creates value chains that come from the communities in and around the natural reserves towards the cities, and not the other way around, which is the usual way things work, which is basically business as usual. All decisions being taken in the center and then going towards the remotest communities. In this case, we want to do it the other way around. Another question is, where are the challenges you face in protecting biodiversity? Is it sometimes difficult to convince authorities on the need to protect biodiversity? Here we have to be very, very ambitious, because in many countries it changes. Every country has a percentage of its territory that is protected, and within natural reserves, national parks, they call it in different ways. But that percentage can go from 8, 9, 10% up to nearly 30%, which is the most advanced cases, really. And then there is the matter, of course, of how well does that protection actually work, and which risks and opportunities are in those areas. For example, in a natural area which is protected in certain countries, it is fires, wildfires, or it is invasion from people for illegal logging, illegal hunting, etc. So there are so many different risks, and they are actually quite particular, quite peculiar for each case. And being them so specific, we really need to take into account the voice of the communities nearby. The risks are really, really complex. In some cases, they interact with each other and make really complex situation. Of course, one of the most complex situations is when there is corruption involved, and there are lots of illegal activities happening at the core of the reserves and involving the communities around the reserves as well. There are cases of violence, there are cases of drugs, the production of drugs in the vicinities of natural reserve, invasion. There are so many different risks, and therefore we need to address them, and we have taken them into account when we go then to the authorities, to the local authorities in each case, so that we can really talk to them in their own language, and we can really bring up to the table specific ideas and solutions for the situation they are facing and the specific risks that exist in that area. What are your main objectives in terms of protecting biodiversity in the coming years? Here we are really going to be very ambitious, because there is no looking back. The world needs to advance the protection of a far greater percentage of territory being protected. Here we need to aim at 40%, 50% of the planet being protected in one way or the other. With that in mind, we need to be very practical and very realistic as well, and very strategic. So we have developed a model in which we will be helping both public and private natural reserves. And we want to emphasize really the fact of including private natural reserves. Why? Because imagine a country where 10% of the territory is protected as state, or that means regional or national natural reserve. That's one thing, but what happens with the other 90% of the territory? So there is a lot of land in private hands, be it companies, be it individuals. There are other countries which count with communal property of the land, which changes from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So we want to create incentives also for them, for the private owners of land, so that, well, it's the incentives, and at the same time, it's the tools, because they need guidelines, and they need access to the technology, and they need tools. So we're creating a toolkit that can actually be brought to them and also can be adapted to every context. And in terms of indicators that we are working on, we have three things really in our mind, besides this 50% of public and private natural reserves, which are hectares protected, the number of hectares protected. That's a key indicator. At the same time, it's the data pools. Of course, we need data pools that can be used for the training of algorithms to really fast forward solutions all around the world, and key species, because the species are really indicators of the health of an ecosystem. How do you envision the future of private companies, including tech companies, in sustainability? Your initiative's priorities include reforming these companies which have a huge environmental impact. Component 4 of our initiative actually is a carbon neutral AI industry 2030 campaign. So we are working also on a strategy to invite tech companies, in particular, those companies today developing and or making money already with AI, offset their AI-related carbon footprint. So that's something we will be addressing, of course, because that footprint needs to be addressed, and that footprint is quite relevant and will continue to grow over the next few years. So we are starting to establish communication with all major AI companies in the world, and we are eager to continue this conversation and to discover ways in which we can really help them offset that impact. And I think we are running out of time as of this moment. Yes, we are getting close to the end of the session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Here is the information of the project. Here is a contact email and the website of AI for Climate, which is forclimate.ai. We are looking for partners all around the world. We are already working on our network in many different regions. We're really interested in collaborating with foundations, companies, local and national governments, and universities and individual experts from all the different countries. And we are happy to see all this progress in so little time. And at the same time, as a final note, I really wish to tell you that it is a great honor to be here in this peculiar moment for the history of the world, and that we hope at the team of AI for Climate that all things go well for you in every country, and that the human family can find a path forward and a way to really bounce back and recover after this complex year. Thank you very much to all, and please contact us at AI for Climate.